Hey everybody, I'm Nick.
And I'm Nick.
And we are Nick Squared. 2 Nicks for half the price. My luscious voice is coming to you from Nick. You can just refer to me as Nick. And you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Nick.
Not to be confused with mine. Obviously, mine doesn't have a K in it. You can hear that in the name Nick.
Mine, of course, is spelled correctly and does have a C and a K, which I think you can hear the emphasis on the 2 unnecessary letters in there.
Absolutely. So all jokes aside, we are both Nick. I'm Nick the Elder. He is Nick the Smaller. As you know, you all can tell by listening to this podcast. But we are just 2 dorks that want to talk about dorky stuff, and hopefully you like to hear about dorky stuff. And this past year, I would say, well, not even just the last year. I'd say these last couple months have been really, really insane for dorks. We've got a lot of TV shows, a lot of movies, a lot of video games, a lot of things coming out, a lot of things being canceled. Henry Cavill, no longer part of the Witcher franchise.
No.
Yeah, you didn't see that?
I think I might have heard about it. I didn't know if it was true.
It is true. So Henry Cavill finished season 3. They are releasing season 3 with him.
Okay.
They've already replaced him.
And who did they replace him with again?
Liam Hemsworth.
Liam Hemsworth. Liam's Hemsworth is the Bizarro Realm version of him.
I might actually want to watch that. No, I've heard different stories. I'm not gonna, I didn't dig too far into it. They haven't released an official statement as far as I know. I've heard some things where he had disagreements with the producers. Mm-hmm. Henry Cavill is very much wants to stick to the books.
Right.
The lure's there.
Yeah.
The books are there. And I think the producers were wanting to kind of do, hey, it's a show. We're going to do things a little different. And I've heard that. But it is odd that this comes at the exact same time that Superman is signing on for 3 more movies.
He's back in as Superman. And I think they're giving him a little control over how he's portrayed.
Yes. Realistically, the general populace, who are they going to remember?
Right, they're going to remember Superman. Would you like to play the most recognizable character in history?
Absolutely.
Or this guy that's pretty niche to the nerd community?
Yep.
So that's a toughie.
Yeah. Which one's going to give me a little more money in the end? One that's only streaming on Netflix, or one that's going to be theaters everywhere?
Who's going to be watching your movie in 50 years?
Yes.
The Superman fans.
Absolutely. So again, could it be? Could it be? I know that they made a lot of Witcher fans upset, which obviously didn't change anything, didn't affect anything. Well, so we have some good news, we have some sad news with everything. You did finish House of the Dragon, right?
Yes, I wasn't even in control of myself finishing that. That was just my body wanted that.
House of the Dragon, coming after the huge success of Game of Thrones, except for the last season. I know there's a lot of hurt feelings about that. I personally liked the last season of Game of Thrones. From the mindset of the entire show disappointed me by killing off all my favorite people. Why should the last season be anything different?
Sure,
The entire time I'm watching it happen and people are getting upset, my mind's going back to Ned Stark, and I'm like, this is the most fitting end. I shouldn't feel happy at the end of this show. I should feel sad and angry and disappointed. I felt that way every season to some extent. But House of the Dragon, phenomenal show. Little dark, and I mean that from a cinematic point of view. They filmed it a little dark.
Yeah, it was quite actually candlelit.
Yeah, it was candlelit. A lot of darkness. How did you feel about the time jumps that we got throughout the show?
I liked them after a certain point. I got really attached to young Rhaenyra.
Yes.
I think that she was just phenomenal in that
actress.
role, and I'm glad we got Paddy Considine. Is that how you say his name? Paddy Considine, who played Viserys.
Yes.
I'm glad we got him through the whole series.
Phenomenal.
Like, I would have been upset if they would have casted an older version, but because that guy, I mean, that was acting. That was
so between him and what's Matt's last name?
Smith.
Oh
Lord, I'm glad they didn't recast him.
Oh my goodness, I'll never forget the crab feeder episode where he didn't say anything.
Just quiet the whole time.
Just quiet. Stole the show without dialogue.
Yep.
Phenomenal acting. I agree 100%. So doing the time jumps, I understood. And I think as the show goes on, we're not even going to talk about it anymore because you're talking 3 to 4 seasons of what takes place in a very short amount of time. Dance of Dragons is supposed to be very violent. It's supposed to be fire and blood, and it is just non-stop killing. And I get that they wanted us to get there. I wanted the original Rhaenyra to get there.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Almost like I would wait a few years for the show.
Yeah.
But no, now listen, I'm not saying that the person that plays older Rhaenyra isn't good. She still sells it hard.
Phenomenal.
And the older, the casting on the Green Lady.
Oh yeah,
Alicent. Man, the casting of the two,
they
look like an older version. Yeah. And gosh, her in the Hightower Green, she just sells that. Like, she is that.
Phenomenal. One thing I really like that they did in Game of Thrones and they really did in House of the Dragon, and I wish that more series and books and in movies, TV shows would kind of touch on this. There's clear arguments for either side.
Sure.
That's no one's coming out of this with their hands clean. There's no clear. This is good team, bad team.
Right.
The arguments could be made for both sides, and I like that. I don't feel like they're trying to make you relate to a villain. There is no villain.
Right? Yeah. I mean,
there's no villain.
There's no villain. There's no one to root against.
No.
It's all just you pick who you think has the more reasonable. And now I lean toward the Targaryen just because I think they're a cooler concept.
Absolutely.
As a whole.
I have a Targaryen banner up on my wall. They have dragons.
They have dragons. Some of them are fire resistant. I mean, they're just cooler.
That's the class I would start off with.
Yeah.
But no. So I've read Fire and Blood, which is George R. R. Martin's take or his story of what takes place during the Dance of Dragons. Phenomenal read. It's interesting because it's written not from his point of view, but it's written from a maester's point of view. So it's a history book.
Yeah.
So one, you're getting a very biased opinion of what's going on. You're getting very, this is what this person believed. But you're also getting very little to no dialogue, and you're getting a lot of this secondhand. And they'll tell you, hey, Mushroom, the court jester saw this, and this is what he said happened. So, for instance, the scene with the crab feeder is about 2 paragraphs.
Wow.
And so watching them flush this scene out, I really enjoyed that. And I don't feel like you're taking away from the book. As a book purist, as most people, the book's better. The book's so much better. Did you read the book? Did you read the source material? And I say that jokingly because I'm that way. There's not a lot of source material.
Right.
You get just little bits and pieces, and it's really cool to watch them hit the main things and then go, okay, there's no dialogue written in this scene, so we can create whatever kind of dialogue we want to create. I really enjoyed that. I think the fact that we have different species of dragons.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's not just a copy paste with different colors. These are different looking animals that act different, and one of which looks like an actual mountain.
Oh my goodness! Was it Vhagar?
Yeah.
Watching that big old gal try to get up in the air.
Oh man, that was insane. It looked like she was actually having to put some power behind her wings,
having to struggle. And I'm not going to do any spoilers. I have finished Fire and Blood. I'm not going to tell you what was supposed to happen, what's going to happen. I am very disappointed. I think based on the last reading that I did, they said that the season 2 of House of the Dragon, which is coming back, is projected for the fall or winter of 2024.
Mother of God.
So we have to wait 2 years. 2 years. But I would, as much success as House of the Dragon has after Game of Thrones, and I don't know how much of this has a part in the fact that we're old now and time is weird and we have kids. I feel like Game of Thrones was like last year.
It does feel that way. I was thinking about how long ago that was, and man, that was the world is different since Game of Thrones ended.
The world is different.
It feels like I watched it last week.
Which brings us into our next talking point. When you really and this is going to make us feel really old, and hopefully some of our listeners can relate, and everyone's grabbing their back right now. The MCU. When you think about Endgame, how long ago Endgame was, let alone Iron Man 1, Captain America, First Avenger.
I was in high school. I was a little baby when Iron Man came out.
Absolutely. I remember I had just gotten my first job, and one of my first paychecks went to us going to go see, I think it was Iron Man 2, actually, with me and a group of friends. And I remember these things, and I look back on it now, and I'm like, these are 40 movies ago, and 15 TV shows, and cartoons, and spin-offs, and everything else. Are you as invested now in the MCU as you were pre-Endgame, right after Endgame?
So here's my thing, as someone that's lived and breathed comic books since I was, 6 years old. Every time they announce a comic book character that I if I brought up Man-Thing even 2 months ago,
absolutely.
People are like, okay.
What's a
except
man
other,
thing?
other
Nerds.
Yeah, other nerds. I can talk to you about it, obviously, but
I still remember
now
the comic, the giant-sized man thing, when it was actually the big comic. That was one of my favorite references in Comic Book Man, was just because it was called Giant-Sized Man Thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, somebody sat down at a table with an editor and said, we're going to call this the Giant-Sized Man Thing. And somebody said, great idea.
Great idea.
No one's going to find you.
Totally over his head. But no, I sit here, and every time I hear about a new Marvel thing, I'm like, man, Endgame really was a good bookend on that.
It really was.
And then, that Spider-Man movie, No Way Home, Far From Home, the one that came out right after.
Yes,
that was a good epilogue.
That was
showing the aftermath of the world and all that.
The death of Iron Man, he was still mourning that.
Yeah, and it showed what the world was like after the snap, and
absolutely. And
I think it showed the world healing good. I think that was a good epilogue. Everything else after that has been extra to me. It doesn't feel like... It does feel like they're building towards something, but sort of not at the same time.
Sure.
It's just a lot.
It's a lot. Some things some ideas I wanted to throw off you to hear what you had to say. One is, when we were going through Iron Man and we were going through everything, we knew what we were building to.
Yeah, we knew Thanos was coming.
You knew Thanos. You had whole end credits. You didn't even see the man.
Yeah.
Or the first time you see his face and you see that beautiful chiseled chin. The first time he makes the gauntlet. Like, every episode, every movie, everything was what is he doing now? And it was building towards him. We know Kang is coming.
Yes.
If it wasn't for Loki, you wouldn't know what he even looks like. We wouldn't know anything about it.
Exactly, and especially non-comic readers.
Absolutely, yes.
Kang.
Yeah.
And even now, even non-comic readers now are probably still like, okay, who's this guy?
Exactly. How do you think, going back, we're sitting at the table with Marvel and Disney. Endgame happens. It's wonderful success. Do you think fans would have been happier or I don't know, I'd say happier, but do you think they'd be as pleased, or do you think they could have revitalized if instead of saying, what now? Let's make a Black Widow movie after the death of Black Widow. Let's keep making, let's make a Loki show after the death of Loki.
Right.
Love the characters, love the actors and actresses, very attached to them. One, I feel like it kind of lessened their deaths a little bit.
I think so too, yeah.
But what do you think that you would have wanted to talk them out of? Let's stop continuing the Avengers for right now. Let's bring in a whole new crew.
That's what I would have done.
Let's start with an X-Men, or let's start with all new Avengers. Let's different timeline maybe. Whole new. Let's start from the beginning again.
Yeah. So the thing though about that is, these characters became pretty iconic. People came to the theater to see Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth.
Absolutely.
It would be pretty tough. I think it'd be pretty tough to do that again.
But Do you think it could? And I'm not saying replace him. I don't want Tom Cruise as Iron Man.
No, I'm talking about new characters.
Yeah, give me a Squirrel Girl.
Sure, yeah, and they did try that.
They did.
And, in fact, they got pretty far in the production of that, and I wish they would have done it.
But do you feel like now with 47 TV shows, a new movie every 2 to 3 months, and you have movies like what is it, Morbius, Eternals. You have movies that are just irrelevant. I wouldn't say irrelevant. They feel irrelevant.
Right, they feel just. And Morbius is literally disconnected from that universe, but
yes.
Eternals just feels like it happened and then it was gone.
And you have so many. I feel like we're Disney's running into the same issue they ran into with Star Wars.
Yeah,
you're giving too many people directions, and you are in charge of this. You're in charge of this movie. You're in charge of that movie. Because when you look at Eternals, did you watch Eternals?
I did.
So you had Eternals happen.
Yeah.
You had a celestial,
just big up there in the sky.
But you had one come out of Earth.
Right. Yeah.
Where were the Avengers?
Just in the ocean.
And the thing is, we've had several movies and TV shows since. Nobody's mentioned it.
Nothing. So in the comics, they make it Avengers headquarters.
Yeah,
which I think would be neat.
Super neat. So I feel like not to try to put a death wish on the MCU. This is a huge part of my childhood, huge part of my young adult. But I think either a break or I think the moment that we watched Loki, loved Loki, thought the show was great, thought it was a fun little thing. The moment we had the multiverse, we sat back and I looked at, was it Alligator Loki, Old Man Loki, Young Loki, and I looked at all this and I said, there's nothing stopping them from doing this with every single character until one sticks.
Right.
Here's new Iron Man. You don't like that one? Well, guess what? Iron Man 14's gone. Here's Iron Man from Universe 85.
Right.
Do you like that one?
They could if they felt like it.
And I'm wondering how much of this, obviously they're doing it for money.
Of course. I mean, at the end of the day, that is what it is. And it's going to make money at this point. I mean...
It is. I think Black Panther just came out last weekend, and it was already...
Still haven't seen that.
I haven't seen it either. Honestly, this kind of leads us into our next topic. Since COVID, I don't go to the movie theater that often.
Yeah, I don't go see a lot of movies anymore. And God, popcorn is so cheap at a store. And
honestly, and going into the shutdown with everything, you had movie companies, you had streaming services that did a service to people.
Oh yeah,
they realized that people were locked in their houses, people were quarantined, people were trying not to go anywhere, they had nothing to do, and we had movies and TV shows getting made, so we went to streaming. That's over now.
Yeah.
But when a movie comes out and you're telling me, for me to take my wife and kids and to go get popcorn, it's $70 to $100 to have a wonderful experience, or I could wait 3 weeks.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
That's why streaming in my house.
See, that's why I haven't seen Black Panther, because I know it's going to be on Disney Plus.
It's going to be on Disney Plus,
and I really want to see it because I love Namor.
Oh,
I love and I haven't looked up any spoilers. I really hope that it's going to do him justice. I've heard that they have. But I really want to see that.
Absolutely.
And to see how they do with Chadwick Boseman being, getting tributed in this.
Absolutely.
I really want to see how they do him justice too. But I don't want to go to the movies. I love movie theaters.
Yep.
But going and my daughter's not going to want to walk in there without snacks.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the thing is I don't know where everyone's listening from and how much that you all can relate to this. The nearest movie theater for us, the one that's in town, I would say is not the best quality.
No, our town is so tiny.
Yes.
And the screens aren't huge, the seats aren't comfortable, and the floor is sticky.
The floor is sticky. The sound quality is not the best. And they didn't soundproof it that well, or at least they didn't I guess whenever they built it and they soundproofed it back then, they didn't anticipate how loud movies were going to get and how much depth and bass. Especially with people like J.J. Abrams out there just blowing up everything. So you go and you sit in the movie theater and time after time there's this very sentimental scene. It's quiet, it's beautiful, and then next door, boom, boom, and it's shaking the theater.
And every trailer plays that noise
Yes,
now.
yes.
So every 3 to 5 minutes, you're hearing boom from next door.
Absolutely. And now there are better theaters. You have to drive out. But then again, I would say I've become spoiled due to having limitless entertainment at my fingertips. When's the last time on a release day you went out and bought a DVD?
Oh Lord, I haven't.
Right?
It's been a long time.
Right? When's the last time you went and say, DVDs, you can get a regular DVD on a new release, usually $19. But if you get the Blu-ray, the DVD,
Right.
the digital, the copy that we always used to get,
Yeah.
get a little collector's item, $39 to $45.
No. All right, I'm gonna give you a little anecdote. You're gonna love this.
I love anecdotes.
How long ago did you let me borrow The Green Knight on DVD?
The we get released.
That was like a year or two ago, wasn't it?
Hold on.
Look up the release date on that.
Phenomenal movie, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm going to assume you didn't.
I still haven't even opened it because when I'm on my couch and I have thousands,
July 30th, 2021. So you're a year and a half.
thousands of choices that I can go to with my remote, and
Absolutely.
I'm done working. I go home. It's movie time,
Absolutely.
and they're like, I look over at the Green Knight, which is sitting on my entertainment stand, and I go, ugh. I'm gonna walk over there and
right?
put it in my PlayStation, and
Absolutely.
oh no, I don't want to do that.
Absolutely. Now, I will say the same thing. Now, with our line of work, we work retail. We get to see these movies. I build these giant cardboard displays for whatever that week's movie release is. And I sit back and I go $30.
Oof.
$30 for me to have a disc. I don't use discs on almost anything anymore. And it's sad because I remember when VHS was that way.
Yeah.
I remember the times of Blockbuster. I remember the times of renting movies. I remember when Redbox first came out.
Oh, that was like, oh my god, this is magic.
Yeah, and I watched Redbox release and said, this is fantastic. And then where I lived at, there was a Blockbuster right by my house, and I'd walk past it to get to Redbox. And I would sit there and I would just think about it, and I'd watch it. Now it's a gym, but it still has a big Blockbuster ticket sign.
Nice.
They never took it down.
Your ticket to swollenness.
Yeah,
Right.
But I remember Netflix. I remember just being able to click on what do you want to watch, and it was thousands
of just everything.
Everything was there. And so I've become very spoiled to that, where I don't buy DVDs anymore. I used to want the collector's editions, the one with the
Right.
and now I watch. Halloween just ended. I'm a huge
Oh,
horror
it
fan.
ended.
It ended. Evil dies tonight.
People died tonight.
But we're big horror fans, and I remember years ago when they would re-release the same movie, same exact horror movie, but they would change the cover. And
Oh
use-
yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'd buy all of them because
Friday the 13th is the biggest thing for me. Like some of these covers, like, oh man, that cover is cool. I have like 10 copies of.
It's the same movie. They don't even give us. There's no director's
Yeah,
cut.
especially the first 4.
Yes.
A movie. I have so many copies of those movies that are just same movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was that way with Stephen King stuff. I've got several movies on that shelf that literally they just sit there because I have them streaming somewhere else.
Right.
And it's sad to think that I'll lay in bed and I'll grab my PlayStation controller and I've got thousands of movies at the house on disc, and I'll look and I'll just it tires me to think to get up and go to these binders and dig through and then put it in the PlayStation.
Yeah.
It's why go through all that
Search bar.
search bar. So and I will say I understand the repercussions of my actions, because I understand that now what we're seeing movies that aren't making as much money in the box office
Yeah.
because of people like us.
Exactly. And
And-
it's, sometimes I worry, is it going to take something away from us? Because, like, when I remember going to see Star Wars Episode 3, that was a thing.
Oh, midnight releases.
Oh, that was a
People
thing.
in cloaks with lightsabers.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was packed. There was 20 people working
Sure.
the counter at the movie theater.
Sure.
Now you walk in, midnight release or something, or that day one of a movie, there's one teenager leaning on the counter. Place is dead.
Absolutely. And it, being born in the late 80s and being raised in malls during the 90s, early 2000s, when movie theaters were those bright pastel colors, neon lights everywhere, they haven't changed.
Lit floors.
Yeah, they haven't changed. They are literally, you go to the mall and you go to our movie theater that's nearest to us, and it looks like it's just taken right out of the 90s.
Yeah.
They hadn't even upgraded anything.
Well, that might also be a problem with the region we live in.
That's very true. That's very true. Everyone else listening to this is like, we have recliners and fancy seats. They have a restaurant in their movie theater. We get stale popcorn. They always every time I go there and I get popcorn, they ask me the same stupid question. You want butter? It's popcorn at a movie theater. I want a heart attack.
Yeah.
Like soak that.
Can I get the
sucker.
nacho cheese in there too?
Just keep adding it to it.
Don't even hand me the Skittles box. Pour it in the popcorn.
Just do it. Just do it.
Make me regret this.
So, and I mean, but also I remember when it was when going to the movies was a big thing for friends. Like we would all get together and we'd all go see a movie together. I think the last time I did that was with you. We went and saw
Halloween Kills.
Halloween Kills.
When Evil Died Tonight.
Evil Dies Tonight. And I remember it was we talked about it going for a few days, excited about it, and that kind of sparked. I will say I am planning to go see Avatar. December
opening 16th.
Day. No.
Going on opening day of Halloween really killed it because that was the most miserable movie experience I ever had.
Yes. I've in my old age, in my seniority now, I sit back and I go, I'm paying $70. I don't want to hear
Stop
somebody
clapping.
like,
I'm watching the movie.
Or you're, or God forbid, a phone call. I think phone etiquette has changed a lot in movies.
For sure.
But no, I won't go see it opening day. And I've gotten really good of just ignoring social media. So spoilers aren't really... I don't mind spoilers. You can spoil the movie for me. You could say, what was his name? Was it Jake? Jake Sully is what they called him? Jake Sully?
Yeah.
In the movie, you could tell he could die halfway through. And we get a whole new cast, and it's his great-grandchildren.
You wouldn't be bothered if someone told you that?
Wouldn't be bothered at all. I'm here for the graphics for this movie.
Right. That's the thing, man. We might argue about this. I didn't like Avatar, but I was also a child when it came out.
So, and I mean, and it's... Avatar's a remake of, was it Dances with Wolves? But blue people were real.
Right.
For a minute. And I remember when they said we're making 2 more, and I was like, why? What story could you tell?
I thought they were lying about that until, this year.
Till they released the trailer.
Yeah.
They said, hey, by the way,
I was like, it's like, no, you're not making another one.
But why? The tree's gone.
Yeah.
The home tree's gone.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out. So no, that's what I wonder. I wonder with them trying to release so much of the MCU and all these TV shows and spin-offs, if they're doing it just for the sake of movie ticket sales are down, so we keep
pump them out.
Keep the Disney Plus, because I mean, just in the past few years, we had Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness, which.
I liked it. I mostly because Sam Raimi did some visual things that were just top notch.
Now I didn't hate it. I liked it for it was okay. The moment that they said we're going into the multiverse, we're going to see some weird things. I thought we were going to see some weird things.
They did not show us enough weird stuff in that movie.
We just saw them shuffling through, and then after that, we found another universe that's almost identical.
Right. A little more futuristic, maybe.
A little more futuristic. Oh, and by the way, it's got some of the X-Men cast that are in your universe as X-Men.
Yeah.
So seeing that, I wanted to see, T-Rex Spider-Man. I want to see some weird stuff. It's a multiverse.
I want to see talking. Well, you know what? Actually, have you seen Everything Everywhere All at Once?
I have not.
No, that's weird multiverse stuff. That is top notch they go to the full extent of what a multiverse should look like in a movie. You need to watch that.
I will have to watch because that's what I wanted. Seeing Wanda go into more of a horror, darker side of Scarlet Witch was fun. Honestly, when it comes to magic, I'm very particular with magic, especially now seeing it on the big screen, seeing it in the Multiverse of Madness. You had her acting was wide-eyed and hold my hands out in front of me.
Yeah,
that's it. That's all. And I mean, when you really think about it, you've got characters like
she moved good.
She moved with her hands out in front of us and her eyes wide. But when you think about Black Widow,
right,
flipping around all over the place,
for sure.
Captain America throwing his shield, Thor, Chris Evans, or Chris Hemsworth, hitting people with a hammer, pulling light. You had these extravagant movements, and then you have Scarlet Witch, just
whooshy.
And then to fight Scarlet Witch, you have Doctor Strange.
She trained hard for that. I'm not even kidding. She went to movement classes and. I
remember watching Harry Potter, and they had combat wand specialists teaching them how to fight with wands. And I was like, how do you get that job?
Who decides? I'm defending Elizabeth Olsen because I just hardcore celebrity crush on her.
Absolutely.
I want nothing but the best for her.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm going to bring in Cumberbatch as well, and I'm a huge Cumberbatch fan.
Yeah.
Watching him play Smaug, watching him when COVID first hit, they released, I'll never forget, the big theater in England released their full plays.
Yeah. With the Frankenstein.
So they released it on Wednesday nights on YouTube for free to stream, and you got the full 3 hours. But for Frankenstein, they did both of them. So in one, Cumberbatch was the monster, and then the next he was Dr. Victor von Frankenstein. And I remember watching it and watching him birth as the monster. Just him flailing around, drooling on himself in a skin suit.
Yeah, that guy acts.
So you have Scarlet Witch over there, whooshy fighting style, and who's her main combatant? Doctor Strange. Whooshy fighting style. So it's just a bunch of whooshy.
Yeah.
Now, of course, seeing the What If come, zombie Doctor Strange.
That was good content.
That was great content. I wanted a lot more of that.
Yeah. Well, we're getting it.
We're getting it. Very, very excited for that. Now, again, I haven't watched half the shows. I watched, Winter Soldier and Falcon.
I liked that show. Should have been a movie.
Should have been a movie. Could have been a movie. Watching Captain America, the new Captain America, behead somebody with a shield.
New U.S. agent.
Yes.
New Captain America is Sam Wilson.
Now it is, but at the time
he was Captain America.
At the time he was Captain America, acting as a representation of America, freedom by beheading people
from our home state, of Georgia, representing by decapitating people.
So I watched that, loved that. Watched Loki, loved that. And then WandaVision.
I loved WandaVision.
I didn't.
And once again, I'm on her side. No, I really it was creepy and weird, and you didn't know what was going on, and it kept me coming back. I really liked it. Odd that the Vision wasn't in Multiverse of Madness, the White Vision. I thought that was kind of strange, but
yeah. So I know the premise. I know that especially if you make it past like episode 3, episode 4.
Wait, have you not finished it?
No.
What?
No, I couldn't.
Dude, you gotta finish it.
Couldn't get past the sitcom.
It's good.
I will finish it, but then
Loki's better.
Loki. I watched Loki, loved it. There's so many shows. Watched What If, loved it. Didn't watch Moon Knight?
You didn't watch Moon Knight?
I haven't watched Moon Knight yet.
Moon Knight's pretty good. I love Moon Knight as a character. He's insane. And they play that up a good little bit. I hope we get more.
Yeah.
I hope the Werewolf by Night.
I'm about to say you mentioned Man Thing.
I want the director of Werewolf by Night. God, I can't remember his name. We need to pull up his name because I want to mention him by name. I don't want to sell him short because he did. I want him to be in charge of Moon Knight, in charge of Blade. Heck, give him Doctor Strange too. I want that. Not like my favorite part about Marvel when I was coming up, when I wasn't in the mood for big, powerful superheroes brawling, was the dark side of it. You know what I mean? And
now I'm going to absolutely butcher.
Then let me do it. His name is Michael Giacchino. Yeah, we probably said that wrong.
I apologize, Michael.
Sorry,
I'm sure I know you're listening.
Of course, he's listening. Why wouldn't he?
Yeah, he's wanting to know what our take is on the movie. Yeah. So I loved Werewolf by Night. I watched it on a whim. I started
Yeah.
watching it while I was doing laundry. It was so I just turned it on. They
You
said,
didn't
"Hey."
finish your laundry, did you?
No, I sat down. Well, because one, it brought me back to black and white films.
Yeah.
Love that era. Loved the feel of it. But
Look,
then
30s and 40s horror is just the atmosphere,
completely different.
and I didn't think you could do it
And that's
with digital media. And my God, you
they
can.
did. And that's for me. That's what I realized was missing. Was there was a soul behind that film. It was you felt
Yeah.
something when they opened up the casket and started turning the
Yeah.
clock and
Yeah.
the dudes over there pivoting. I was like, Disney, good job,
For
you
sure.
did it.
It was incredible.
Man thing was fantastic. But then we go werewolf. In my mind, I'm going, are we going underworld? Are we going with these lichens? Are we going like this big thing? The dude in a fursuit.
Dude in a fursuit.
And I watched that and I was like, this is all I've ever wanted.
Jack Russell.
Yeah, this is it. This is what I need. This brought me back to Universal Monsters. This brought me back to, and I mean, I feared him. He's throwing people around.
Yeah, he's
and,
scary. You don't want to be in that room. You'll die.
and of course, there, everything red still showed up in the black and
Exactly.
white film. Mwah,
Yep.
mwah. Loved it. Loved everything about it. Man Thing looked great. I think his name is Ted.
Yep, Ted.
Yep. What was he?
And, let those who know fear burn at the touch of the Man Thing.
Yes.
Watching him just wreck people. God, that was wonderful.
Wonder. And then they're
I am
hanging out
huge,
afterwards.
Yeah, I love Man Thing. I love all the swamp creatures. The Heap. That's a deep cut for any comic book fans. Is the Heap.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna throw that out there to get my street cred.
Yes, we have read comics. We have long boxes behind us. So, all right, we're back. We had to take us a quick little bathroom break. I'm not as young as I used to be. But so we were talking about the up and coming fantasy. Just a few years ago, or I say just a few years ago. Now it's probably been closer to 20. I remember when Twilight took over. And
It hasn't been 20 years since Twilight. Please, no. I think it's been 15. That's still too long.
When did Twilight?
I think it was my freshman year in high school. That was 15 years ago.
2005. So we're coming up on 18 years.
Yee.
But I remember when Twilight came out and everything was vampires.
Yeah.
Everything, books, you go into the bookstore, everything had a black glossy cover with, a fruit or a hand.
Yeah.
And I remember
Very intimate blood.
yes, very intimate blood. And then I remember, everything went vampires, werewolves.
Intimate Blood is the name of my band. Anyway.
In high school, the name of my band was Wall Baloney. We
Nice.
didn't release an album. Probably for the better. But so I remember when that took over. Do you feel like fantasy, sci-fi fantasy?
Oh, it's coming back hard. It is. I think it's the thing right now, and sci-fi and fantasy. I mean, it's always been the thing that people really drew crowds, especially if you look at the 50s through the 80s.
Sure.
It drew the big crowds when it came to movies and stuff. And then for a while there, we had vampires and zombies.
Right around 2005. Which,
Yeah.
I mean, you had Walking Dead. Which,
Yeah.
again, for our area, Walking Dead's filmed
I mean,
down the street from us.
Yeah, it was very good for our local economy.
Yeah, I mean, Nick and Norman's is a restaurant.
Yeah.
I've ran into some of the cast members. I remember early on in the show, T-Dog used to come to the Subway I worked near, and was there all the time just buying sandwiches.
Wow.
And he's super nice guy. But no, and I mean, we're watching. I remember, it was several years now with the redo of Star Trek.
Yeah.
Movies looked great, very shiny. I love shiny. We had a new Spock. Which to me, Star Trek was a little more dorky. I enjoyed watching it. I was a Next Generation kind of guy.
Right.
Captain Jean-Luc Picard was my captain. And then, I mean, that was my first love interest, 7 of 9. I remember being a kid and she came on the scene and I said, whoa, who's this? But now I would even say we're seeing, we talked about Man Thing. We're seeing like they're digging a little deeper. The Witcher, that's not commonplace.
No. Well, the video games made it popular, but the stories they're telling from those books, that's pretty niche fantasy there.
Yeah.
I have no doubt. I don't know who owns the rights to if Brandon Sanderson wants to make movies.
Oh my goodness, big Brandon Sanderson fan. He does. He teaches like once every 3 years.
Yeah.
And like the lessons are free to watch online, and guy's hilarious.
But people know his name now that I never would have thought
absolutely
would utter the name Brandon Sanderson.
Absolutely, they haven't gotten to the fact like he finished the Wheel of Time. They haven't gotten that far into it, but he's coming around. And now we have a Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Yeah, so Dungeons and Dragons is here now. It's part of it's a mainstream thing now. I
Absolutely.
would say.
We're seeing it on shirts. We're seeing D20s on the back of people's vehicles.
For sure. People aren't playing in basements scared to see the light of day anymore.
Well,
when I was a kid.
Now, I will say people are still playing in basements.
I mean, yeah, but the basements are very nice now. They're usually finished basements.
Absolutely.
And people have...
We don't have cardboard wizard hats anymore.
And I can talk about my campaign with people, and they seem entertained instead of going, okay, so you're rolling dice?
Yeah, what is this for?
But you gotta give credit to like people like Acquisitions Incorporated and Critical Role and the show Community.
Absolutely, Community, Critical. I remember when I first found Critical Role, it was actually overwhelming. It was near the end of their first campaign.
Oh man,
and so
a lot going on there.
A lot going on. Loved it, and then I went back. I was off a week, and I was like, you know what? Let me go back and listen to some of the. How old is this? And it's we're on episode 143,
right?
And they're all an hour to 2 hours long. And I was like, I don't have that kind of time, so I gave up. Now, giving credit for D&D's comeuppance or come back into I would say popularity. How much credit, honestly, do you think would have to go to shows like Stranger Things?
Oh, yeah, no. Stranger Things probably brought it back in a weird way. It's because it's such a huge part of the show.
Absolutely.
Because all the villains are named after D&D monsters. And my daughter, she knows Vecna as a villain in Stranger Things, not as this, evil lich that's... I mean, she does know him as a lich now because I schooled her on it.
we had to raise the children right. You can't just
I was getting
things.
a little annoyed, but that's just me being the actually guy to her.
Oh no!
Yeah.
You drop her with the.
Yeah, she's old enough now that I go actually. Vecna is a lich from D&D, and yeah.
See, I refuse to be that.
She doesn't care.
No,
I mean,
no. I refuse to be the actually. But I am the did you know?
So, oh yeah.
So
yeah.
I'll jump into conversations. Well, did you know that what you're talking about actually happened? Oh, so I am the actually guy. I just predicate mine with did you know?
You just think you're better than me.
I just think I'm having a come to Jesus meeting with myself. I'm that guy. So I remember, raised in the 90s. My family wasn't overly religious. So I played Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
I played some Dungeons and Dragons. I realized when I grew up, I've got all my books over there in the corner. When I grew up, I was raised on military bases, so people would move, and when you would move, especially from Europe to the U.S., you couldn't bring everything, and a lot of your stuff got moved via shipping container.
Yeah.
So it wasn't you're going to get stateside. Here's your stuff. It's you're going to get stateside in 3 to 6 months.
When the boat gets here.
When the boat gets here, we'll unload your stuff.
If it's not lost.
Absolutely. So I remember where I was in Ansbach Middle School. I was standing back where the wrestling mats were, near where the gym was, is where the nerds met. Ironically, we met where our bullying was most prominent. Yeah. And I remember one of my friends said, "Hey, I just found out I'm going back stateside." It was the middle of school year. And we were like, "Oh no!" Like one of the fellowship is gone. Legolas is just out. Like he's just gone. And he was like, "Yeah, my parents said we got to watch what we pack, so I can't take some of my nerd stuff." And he looked at me and he's like, "You want my stuff for like $20?" And I was like, "Bet." Great. Again, this is the 90s, so $20 was a lot to come by.
Yeah.
But I got a shoebox full of Magic the Gathering. I got 3rd edition Dungeons Guide, Player's Handbook, and Monster Manual, and I got a pirate bag full of dice.
$20?
$20.
Nice.
So yeah, I still have all of them. But I remember that I didn't get to play nearly that much, but I referenced, as a fantasy fan, I referenced those manuals all the time. When I would read about monsters, and I'd be like, they have nothing to do with Dungeons and Dragons, but what is a Demogorgon? What is this stuff?
Right.
And I would see, of course, that gives me specs on what they roll.
Yeah.
But I would read the lore
You get a good dose of lore in those books.
Absolutely. As a lifetime nerd, do you consider yourself a lifetime nerd? I guess I don't want to.
No, I used to be very cool. Yes, I'm a lifetime nerd.
Absolutely. Somebody made a reference the other day. They were like, kids nowadays, there's a chance they get pregnant in high school and stuff like that. And they're like, aren't you glad that you weren't raised in this time? And I was like, it doesn't matter what time. The chances of me getting a female of my species.
Yeah,
the chances of me touching a female of my species when I was in high school, slim to none.
It was pretty rough.
Yeah,
it was slim pickings.
And it wasn't the time frame that did it to me. It was me that did it to me. But our wives, who are female, are in the other room laughing. And I now, look back. If older me could talk to younger me, hold on, buddy,
chill out. Yeah, it's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be fine. You're gonna get to talk to a lady one day. But seeing something that you've loved your entire life, we've comic books, Dungeons and Dragons, seeing this stuff come full circle, and remembering being young Nick, closing your eyes and envisioning dragons and envisioning, these things, what it would look like. Now that you see it, is it surreal? Do you love it? Do you hate it? What are your feelings towards it?
Oh, so it's really odd, because when I'm there and it's happening in front of me, like, it's surprising me. I'm sitting there going, "Oh my god!" I was like, "What? This is real? Am I awake? Like, this isn't real." And then it's happening, like a Super Mario Brothers movie,
right? We're going to see it with Chris Pratt.
Yeah. When I saw the trailer and I saw Bowser melting that cow, I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "Whoa!"
Jack Black as Bowser. Yeah.
So moments like that, and talking about MCU again, MCU is too prevalent in our society. We've gone back to it. But when the blue Marvel flies on the screen one day, I'm like, what is he doing here?
Absolutely.
That's kind of new, but that's. But when I go back, I get this big swell of endorphins when I'm seeing it. Then when I'm at home watching it, I'm like, okay, is this good? Then I have to sit and think about it. Sometimes I think I just need to let myself enjoy it for what it is.
You become a Puritan almost, where this is not actually...
Exactly, and I'm trying to not be that, because it's annoying. I know my wife gets tired of it.
It's...
Because I feel like, what do you think about that? She'll go, "Yeah, it's pretty good." And I'm like, God, I wish I could do that.
Well, when we talk with people who didn't grow up as nerdy...
Sure, yeah.
People who had sports and friends and social lives,
Mm-hmm.
they were exposed to. I had that friend that I call him dual citizenship. He was a jock and had girlfriends.
Yeah.
But then he read comics, and so we would talk, and it was like seeing a unicorn. It was like, how are you doing this? I had a pocket protector as a kid because pen ink in my pocket was a real.
Are you
risk.
serious?
Yes.
That's insane.
Yes. I carry around a briefcase now, and my job does not require me to have a briefcase. But it's so nice to have all my pens and writing.
Yeah, you do carry a briefcase.
I carry a briefcase. But for people who were exposed to so many different things, people who saw Star Wars occasionally, and it wasn't almost a religion to them. Nerdism was big. I think that they can enjoy it because yes, it was a part of their childhood, but it wasn't their childhood.
Right. Look, listen. I understand fully that everyone on this planet. I don't want to be an elitist. Everyone on this planet basically enjoys Star Wars.
Yes.
But those people aren't going to talk to you about what the wills are and what
no.
and who the mother is, and the the trio, the mother, the father, the sister, and the brother, but who the mother is and what she meant after Empire. I understand that anyone can enjoy this stuff.
Yes.
But on what deep, sometimes it can be weird seeing something that you enjoyed on such a deep level being enjoyed so superficially.
Absolutely.
But the superficial enjoyment isn't any less valid than our enjoyment of it.
No, and honestly, it's because of the superficial enjoyment that those are the people that buy movie tickets.
Yeah, that's what we get. That's how we can get more of this stuff. Is because of the super. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's a bittersweet thing because I do the same thing when things from my childhood resurface. It brings back nostalgia, but then it's almost like you're messing with my memories. Like those are mine.
Right.
Those are I played with a lightsaber that was a stick outside. I remember this, and I feel like I'm almost like you're handing over a Fabergé egg, or you're handing over your child, and you're like, please don't drop it.
And that's why I got so upset about the sequel trilogy.
Oh man. Oh.
I feel like that whoever handled that did not realize what they had.
So in my realm of nerdism, Star Wars is very special to me. And I think we're getting ready to end this episode here, and we'll start the next episode jumping right into this topic. So please tune in. Please love us. I remember growing up overseas, we didn't have TV. It wasn't an option. This is pre-internet, and we lived off base. So we lived in small farming villages, very remote, very, very isolated, very unique experience. Enjoyed it, very, very thankful for it, very thankful for the privilege to have lived that life. So not having TV, what would happen was my family stateside would record TV shows or movies that would air on TV and on VHS. They'd have the little VHS recorder. You pop the tape and hit record, and they would ship that to us.
Oh.
So, and for whatever reason, and I attribute a lot of my mentality to this, is they continuously recorded Home Improvement. So I got every week's episode of Tim Allen, Tool Time. I got all that.
Yeah.
Didn't get any Star Trek Next Gen that often. That was very rare that some, because they didn't watch that. These were older people that weren't big into the Sci-Fi Channel. When I found out that we had our own channel, oh my goodness, it was mind blowing. But I remember as a young child, my dad sitting down with me, and he pulled out the. It wasn't the gold and black one that had Darth Vader's helmet on it, and it wasn't the blue and black one that had the Stormtrooper, but it was the black cover of the 3-pack of VHS of Star Wars 4, 5, and 6. Before they really digitally remastered.
Right.
It was still closer to the original thing. And I remember my dad sitting down with me. My mom and my sister were off at a store doing something, and we closed the blinds, and he put in New Hope. And he looked at me. We had a very, very touching moment where he was like, "This is very important to me."
Yeah.
And my dad is a nerd stuck in the 70s.
Yeah.
Anything new, it's new. I don't like it. There's only one Star Wars, and it's New Hope. I don't even like the ones after that. He's very stuck in the 70s for it. But we sat down, we watched New Hope, and I had already been exposed to graphics 30 years past.
Right.
I'd been exposed to 90s graphics, but I hadn't been exposed to that kind of storytelling.
Right.
And so Star Wars was ingrained, and I was indoctrinated. Eyelids ripped open. You're forced to watch Star Wars. And then I remember him taking me to the midnight release of Episode 1, Phantom Menace.
Ooh, yeah.
And I didn't hate Jar Jar.
Right,
in the
'cause you
moment,
were a
I was a kid.
child.
I was a child.
Yeah.
Jar Jar was Jar Jar.
I used to love Jar Jar.
But I remember seeing Darth Maul the first time.
My God, that was cool.
And then I remember Duel of the Fates playing.
Yeah.
Of course, as a child, I didn't know. But as everybody runs around them and Darth Maul lets them run right past him, he's just eyes.
And he knows what he's after. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Lightsaber came out of both sides.
Yeah. I was freaking out. I was wiggling in my chair.
Absolutely. Just the hands in the air. He's got two lightsabers.
I was 6 years old. And I was sitting there like, Jesus.
Oh, man. And I see the holla as everyone's fighting.
There's nothing like that in new Star Wars.
No. But then I remember I remember watching Anakin for the first time.
Yeah.
And watching Child Anakin, no clue. No clue what was.
Oh, you didn't know?
I didn't know. I didn't put it. I was a child. I didn't.
You didn't put it together. What? I knew. I was sitting there like, whoa.
Episode 2.
That's when you realized.
That's when I was like, wait a minute, and I'm over there connecting red strings in my room.
Cool kid.
It's like, back then he wasn't even cool.
Oh yeah,
he was just kind of some pod racer kid.
Yeah,
he could use the Force by racing pods. That was it. Like, he wasn't doing anything. He wasn't doing anything. So to me, as a kid, I'm over here watching Obi-Wan.
Right.
I'm watching Qui-Gon. I got Mace Windu now. Like, I've got Jedi. And being raised on 4, 5, and 6, and for younger generations now that come into 7 seasons of the Clone Wars, 3 seasons of the Bad Batch.
You were deprived of Force users.
You didn't have Force users.
There was 3.
And waving hands was the best. These aren't the droids you're looking for.
Yeah.
That was the best we got. So I remember watching episode 1 and episode 2 and then getting into 3. And by the time 3 came around, I was fully aware of what was happening. And I'm watching it with tear-filled eyes.
Yeah.
And then my heart's going, he's got to be evil, but I love him. And then, Master Anakin, what do we do? And he just starts tearing through younglings. And I remember my heart breaking, and I'm watching Obi-Wan. You're the chosen one. And I'm just crying, and I'm like, you were supposed to bring balance to the Force. That's not at all in the sequel trilogy. Nah. There's none of that. We get. They looked at that the prequel trilogy and they said we want to take an energy from this. We want to. What can be our big theme? And they chose the theme of Anakin saying, "I hate sand." And they're like, that's what we want to portray. We need a gambling planet, and we need none of it to make sense. And we're going to create these new maneuvers that you can go and blow up dreadnought ships. Right. You thought what was it, Star Destroyer was cool or Death Star was cool?
Do you remember when they dropped bombs in space?
The thing opened up and
then they dropped. Yeah.
They went down.
I don't know. I feel like people have talked about this. Hating on the sequels is old news now.
It's a rite of passage. But do you remember what our fathers and people older than us
did with the prequels? They hated those.
They hated the prequels. They hated Darth Maul. I'm like, dude's awesome.
Well, he's awesome now. He's way more awesome now.
Oh, now that he actually talks and we have a backstory, and his brother, was it Savage?
Yeah.
Savage Opress, I think his name was Savage Oppression. That was awesome. He killed a Jedi with his head. He put a Jedi through the horns on his head.
Yeah, it's way cool. That's what Star Wars is about, is cool stuff.
And honestly, when it comes down to it, that is what we all want. We just want cool stuff.
We just want cool stuff.
We want flashy lights.
And it's not hard to make cool stuff.
So I don't know how they dropped the ball.
Because J.J. Abrams... This is going to get us into something, because J.J. Abrams cares about surprising people.
Explosion.
Oh, you don't know. The problem is stuff goes on for so long that you never get a satisfying conclusion to the surprise.
You never do.
Snoke is no one.
Snoke is no one.
And the Lost sucked. I don't care what anyone
says. People are just freaking out right now. He's talking about our childhood.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Lost was terrible.
That's like,
we don't want surprises. We want lightsabers.
I want to know who's good and evil when I start, and you know what I mean.
And the thing is, I remember when Snoke came out, so all hope was on episode 8.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, episode 7. When 7 came out, we had Snoke, we have this new Sith, we have this, we have that, and then I find out that the voice of Snoke was the guy who played Gollum.
Yeah, Andy Serkis.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
By the way, he's an Andor. Anyway, we'll talk about Andor later.
So I have all the hope and excitement for it, and then as it went on, it was, look, we have a plot twist. I don't want a plot twist.
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't want any more plot. I want to go from point A to point B. Look, plot twists have their place.
Yes.
Like Darth Vader being Anakin Skywalker was a good plot twist.
Good plot twist.
But we knew who was good and we knew who was evil, and we knew...
Absolutely.
No one was sitting there wondering, who's Darth Vader?
Who's the bad guy?
No, that he's just Darth Vader. But then he turned out to be someone else. Snoke was sitting there. We were sitting there going, "Man,
Who's Snoke?
who is this guy? Where did he come from?" Because it makes no sense that just some guy shows up so strong in the Force that he can convince a Jedi to turn on every single one of his friends and his family and kill them all.
Yes.
I'm sorry, you're probably getting a little bit of me beating on a desk, but that doesn't make any sense.
It just doesn't make sense. And that is how we all felt. And we will end it here for this week. Until next time, I have been Nick.
And I've also been Nick.
But we are not the same Nick, but we are part of the same quantum Nickness that is out there. Thank you guys. And we will continue this conversation next time on why we love and also extremely hate Star Wars.